Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Straight Talk for the Soul series, your vibrational, multidimensional vitamin for the body, mind, and brilliant community of light. I want to extend a bright and beautiful good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you tuning in from around the world. Welcome home, everybody. This is your sacred space for shifting and upgrading. It's a space for the remembrance of your divine nature. We invite you to subscribe to this show if you haven't already. It's a free platform that you can access at straighttalkforthesoul.com. And you can listen to today's replay as often as you like on our website or on iTunes or YouTube, or connect with us in our private Facebook group or on Instagram. Just enter in Straight Talk for the Soul to find us. And now my favorite question, what is the best that could happen today? Well, I highly encourage you to intend for a shift to happen. Today we're going to talk about physical enlightenment and merging with the universal energies. Micheila Sheldan is here as my co-creative partner for today. She's going to reveal her most recent channeled downloads about body consciousness and physical enlightenment. So just relax, breathe, open, and receive. It's certain to be a wonderfully empowering show today. And my intention, as always, for this journey together is for love and joy and soulfully soothing energy to flow through my voice and this entire sacred energetic space and portal with grace and ease, welcoming in and inviting the highest divine support and participation. It's going to be a beautiful and brilliant show today. I'm excited about it. Allow me to fill you in on what we're going to be discussing with Micheila, and then we'll get started. As Micheila will share, and we'll go into much deeper here, what is active in your mind, consciousness, and vibration is also active in your body. We all understand this, but with the activation of the new grid, human physical material must undergo a change to support a higher dimensional experience. Each of us has a unique energy signature that is rapidly changing as the earth consciousness and vibration raises. As humans have been focused on the non-physical aspects of ascension, the body has lagged behind, and in some respects it's been neglected. And so we're going to talk about all of that. Micheila has recently experienced a week-long initiation with many loving guides and beings, including Isis, Hathor, Mary Magdalene, the Divine Mother, and the Dolphins and the Whales. Through this profound loving experience, Micheila was taught the mechanics of our physical structure and non-physical energy fields, how to implement ancient practices to support our current timeline, and how to increase the body's magnetic field to harness the greatest potentials in alignment with our unique soul plan. So from our time together today, you will ideally walk away understanding more about your personal energy signature and how it works. We'll talk about energy siphons, blocks, and vulnerabilities in the body, ancient activation practices and how they can be utilized in this timeline, how the chakras and the central channels and the physical brain and body work in concert together. We'll discuss the Merkaba. There's a lot to talk about with Micheila. We will be taking callers as well. Press star 2 to raise your hand to ask your questions later. And now a little bit more about Micheila, and we'll dive in. Many of you know Micheila, but during a struggle to overcome chronic pain, she awakened to her intuitive gifts, launching a journey to better understand her connection to spirit and the universe. After meeting a very special guide named Jacob, she was led down a synchronistic path of physical, emotional, and spiritual healing, leaving behind her mainstream life to uncover a mission that she has brought to this planet in many incarnations. Through her connection to Jacob and many others, Micheila completely healed her pain. She stepped boldly onto her soul's path as a trance channel. She now shares channeled teachings with international audiences through live events, radio and television interviews, live courses, writings, and private sessions. She understands that her purpose in this life is to usher lightworkers through a very turbulent and significant dimensional shift on the earth. And to accomplish this, she has access to a variety of guides, ascended masters, teachers, philosophers, interdimensional beings and collectives, including Mary Magdalene, the Pleiadians, the Council of Light, and many others. She channels detailed information about our history, creation, structure, ascension, and transition to a fifth dimensional consciousness. She is also able to transmit light-coded frequencies and vibrational healings as a vessel for crystalline light through channeled messages and activations. Every time she is here, we receive new messages to uplift us, to activate us, and support us in really stepping into our divinely designed roles here. So today is no exception. I'm excited. So please join me in extending waves and waves of love and light and appreciation to Micheila as I welcome her back to the show. So welcome back, my dear.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here with you, Carrie.
It is a pleasure to have you. Like I told you before we went live, it's always so fun because you bring something new every time, and you're constantly bringing in more progressive new information. So what felt significant about this these multiple downloads? I mean, it's all about our body, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we were talking a little bit before we started the call, and we all have a soul journey to go through, and there are parts of our divine plan that we don't enjoy so much. But what I found, especially in this role as a channel, is that it's so potent and important for us to go through those challenges because it brings us closer to the human condition. And it really brings unity consciousness back to the planet when we can all relate going through these significant and turbulent times. And I'm not exempt from that, nor is anyone else. So personally, I'll start personally. And I going back with some of my channeled messages, we kind of knew, if you followed my work, that the last couple of years were going to be pretty tough in the physical body because much of what we've manifested in material has taken place in a different dimension. And we don't think of it that way. We kind of put our bodies last. We think, well, if we're going to work on ourselves spiritually and we're going to do all these different processes and, all of us are starting to eat healthier and juice and all of these things, that the body should just come right along and fall in line. But I know a lot of us in this community have found that that's not exactly the case, and we've been struggling with very strange things, right? Ascension symptoms and exhaustion, adrenal fatigue, and, a variety of issues that have been really difficult to overcome. And so this has been a part of my experience as well. Over the last couple of years, I have been dealing with some of those same symptoms, adrenal issues, thyroid issues, these types of things. You kind of that chase your tail, kind of feeling where you can't quite hammer it down and was just doing a variety of things. And I'm a very meticulous eater. I'm very vegan and raw and juicing and a supplement queen and herbs and, yoga, all this stuff, and still is really struggling. And so I had this interesting experience. It was actually back in August, Carrie. So my oldest daughter had an acting job out in Montana, and so I went to see her for a week. And my youngest daughter was supposed to come with me, and at the last minute, something came up and she couldn't go. And so I found myself alone in this really big house in the river rocks of Montana and the mountains of Montana, and my oldest daughter very busy with her job. So I had all this alone time, and I had this massive influx of these divine masters, Mary Magdalene, Isis, all of the guides that you were speaking of previously. And, they took me back several years when I healed my chronic pain. And I know a lot of the people on the call or in your audience may be familiar with my story. My awakening to channeling came through the struggle with chronic pain. And kind of fell into this easy breath work meditation practice. Wasn't taught by anyone how to do it. I literally just laid down one day and started to breathe. But part of the story that I never told is that I had this immediate Kundalini activation. Now, I didn't know what that was. I didn't have the languaging for it. I just knew that every time I was using the breath in this certain way, I was holding these very heightened states of bliss in my body that would carry throughout the day, and magic was happening around me. So all of the things I needed to step forward with in my physical life to change my body was just appearing in front of me. I was magnetizing this beautiful recipe that I could have never done on my own. And we know there's just so many incredible opportunities out there to heal the body, whether it be with healers or diets or practices. And we are bombarded with so much. And so for me, that time of my life was almost like a clearing away of all of the distortions, so that I was walking down this path truly aligned with the best suited tools that I needed for my unique situation. And so during this week in Montana, I was reintroduced to this breath work and taught the mechanics of it and exactly how it works and why it's so important that it come back in this time on the planet. So literally alone in this house for 6 days, I'm doing this nonstop, 3-4 times a day. And I get home, get off the plane, and this magic started happening again. It was like the path cleared, and all of a sudden there was a new test, a new diagnosis. A holistic doctor who I loved, who had traveled to Tokyo for 2 years, all of a sudden emailed me and was back in town and said, come see me, got on this herbal protocol, got the right diagnosis. And in 3 weeks, something I struggled with for almost 2 years and couldn't pin down, changed for me in about 3-4 weeks. And so I started downloading this, and sharing it with the community, because I think it is so important that we have so much going on in the body right now that we have to get, in a sense, a little ahead of it. And we have to begin to perceive it a bit differently. And so I learned a lot during this 6-day period. I might have said 6 weeks. I meant 6 days. 6-day period, about our life force energy and how it is such an alchemical part of our physical body, and how it interacts with our divine plan and what lies within our physical DNA, and some of these patterns of disease that come up, and how we create vulnerabilities within our structure, but we can heal those and rise above them. And this is really the crux of the information that I'm sharing now.
Yeah.
So it's a huge body of work, and there's a lot to cover. But what I will say is, what I will say is, I think it's time now. And a lot of people that have come to this material or these downloads have asked, why now? Why Kundalini breath now? This is something we've known for a very long time. And as you mentioned when you read the introduction, the planet has shifted. And we've had a very significant pole shift. And we have a new grid, and all of that has affected our inner technology. So our bodies have not been operating in the way they've been designed. We've had a lot of broken connections. And what I'm seeing in private session and what the guides are explaining to me is that the technology itself is reconnecting and coming back online, which makes these practices that much more powerful. And where they've just been seen as a one-time activation for spirituality or enlightenment, they now can be utilized for very physical shifts in our everyday reality.
That's exciting. And what's powerful is that you experienced the effects of this Kundalini breathwork yourself pretty quickly, it sounds like, because that reintroduction to the power of that, it sounds like it kind of gets the life force energy flowing again, and then you're in a more receptive state or space to allow for these solutions. And it was like things just sort of lined up for you in terms of just solutions and feeling better. So what is the gist of this? I mean, is it simple? I mean, is this simple breath work? What about someone who's never had a Kundalini experience? I mean, is that a requirement to allowing this?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Extremely simple. And actually, the breath is really just a simple in-breath through the nose with a short hold and a very accentuated out-breath until every bit of the air is exhaled. And the guides have reiterated time and time again that we make sure this is a diaphragmatic breath, and we may even place a hand on the belly, simply because we want to stoke that life force energy, which actually sits in the lower chakras. And so that diaphragmatic breath is very important. And as a matter of fact, and so we know, and let me just clear this out of the way first, there are so many different techniques that we can use to have a Kundalini awakening. And if we Google this online, we can become very overwhelmed with the intellect of it. And what the guides taught us was that this is a very gentle and relaxing breath. It is not something we have to strive for. And people who have been working with it over the last couple of weeks have noticed a lot of movement of this energy through the body. And it starts very subtle. It starts in the lower realms. It really starts at the root and the sacral. And as we raise it, what we're doing is we're creating this alchemy between the physical and non-physical. And yeah, our life force is what we create through. It also is meant to expand our magnetics. So the real gist of this program, as we're raising the Kundalini with the breath, or we'll say raising the life force with the breath into Kundalini, is that we are increasing our magnetic field.
Okay.
And that magnetic field is retrieving for you, very specifically, in a sea of so many opportunities, what is needed, because we each have this very unique energy signature. And what that means is there's really no one disease or illness or physical form of experience that can be experienced again in the same way as another. So we diagnose things very similarly based on tests and symptoms, but what our life force knows is that everything manifested in the body is as unique as we are. And that's why there could never be one truth or specific protocol or treatment for any one disease, which makes it that much more frustrating, does it not? When you have to use the mind to figure it all out. And that's why this breath comes in. It bypasses the mind and the patterns that we've been running in physical, especially because, we do kind of have this lack of appreciation for our personal energy signature. This is the way they define this. Yeah, our life force signature is intricately connected to our divine plan, and it's always moderating energy to accomplish whatever is meant to happen. So we come with this plan, our soul codes it within us before we arrive, and it means that when we need to work, our energy is going to support work. When we need to rest, our energy is going to downgrade to allow rest. But there's a direct communication between your life force energy, your divine plan, your soul contracts. And what happens is we negate that. So I'll give you a personal example. For me, before I was a channel, I was a very physically active person. I was a weightlifter. I was hitting the gym twice a day. I was walking. I was a dancer. I was very, very active and fit. And when I started to channel, my body template changed. My energy began to change. Well, naturally, I was running energy quite differently. And I truly believe that I had to be that physical because there was a moderation process always going on. We don't come with a gift that's dormant and it's completely shut off. I was receiving things that I just wasn't interpreting or utilizing. So here I was in the gym, right, working it all out energetically. Well, as soon as my role shifted into this channel, my body started to change, and I felt that I didn't have the energy anymore to do those things. And the mind started to judge. You know, my ego took a really big hit. So what I attempted to do was force my life signature into the old way of being, when it was actually far more active with channeling non-physical energy to go that direction. Right. And sometimes we create more problems for ourselves because we're trying to fit into a mold of something that we were before. And we don't allow ourselves to flow with what our life force energy knows it's preparing us for down the road, or has to shift us to do something special, right? It's like when we're going to be a parent. You know, our life force energy readies itself to have a child because it knows we're going to need a lot of energy to handle that task. And then sometimes when our parenting role is complete, we might need to replenish that life force energy for our next assignment or activity. And all of a sudden we feel that something's wrong with us because we're not in that active phase anymore. But really, to be in the natural flow of this without judgment or resistance is how we maintain pure physical health. Because it's showing us the way as opposed to us fighting up against and forcing the way based on some ideal outside of us.
Right.
You know,
and we're all doing it differently. It's all different and unique for each of us at different times of our lives. And I think that's a really good point to make about, you know, this energy signature. It is different and unique for all of us. And like you were saying, it's not a one-size-fits-all with regard to health circumstances in terms of solutions. And what I'm hearing you say is that when you reintroduce breath work, and we'll talk a little bit more specifically as many people are asking how to do that, but and it's in the package as well, but I love the explanation. It increases and expands our magnetic field individually, since we all need something new and unique and different that allows for unique solutions for us, that allows for our magnetic field to draw in exactly what we need personally. So that's really important. Instead of just giving everybody the same solution, it's kind of like supporting them and allowing it to come to them individually through the breath and by moving their own energy field in the body. And it's making a lot of sense to me, the way you're describing it. And it's helpful. And you know,
we can take this concept up a notch if we want, because really it's all about unity consciousness in the body. And so if we look out on the planet, we recognize where we have forced our energy signature into very unnatural patterns. You know, there are things we're not all designed to do. You know, you look back at your childhood, and we weren't all designed to play a professional sport. But sometimes we thought we had to do that, or we were forced into doing that, and we maybe failed miserably, but it was a difficult experience for us. And what happens when we do that is we become separate of the whole. You know, we carve out these timelines that really don't support collective unity or collective consciousness. And so within the body, we have these microcosmic cells and organisms that are consciousness as well. And so when we're forcing the body to be or do something that is not in our highest and best interest, we lose the unity consciousness within us. And that's what perpetuates these vulnerabilities, where we naturally will match patterns of disease, where a consciousness of cells will take on a separate identity of the whole and begin creating things that aren't in our highest interest.
That's powerful stuff. It really is.
Yeah.
Someone asked a good question in our webcast. There's a ton of questions, but Lynn from California, she said, as mentioned in the amazing course in the Lightworker Inner Circle 13, which you're offering, she said our chakras are being unified and crystallized. She says, however, because they are not yet integrated, we cannot use this advantage optimally. She says, in what ways might we best assist ourselves to integrate our crystallized chakras so that we're better able to use this marvelous advantage? What
Great
do you say to that?
question. Yeah. Yeah. So let's just back up and explain to the audience that something that's been coming into my transmissions is that our chakras are crystallizing and connecting as a one field. And it's always meant to be this way. So each of the chakras have a separate assignment, not unlike we all have unique and separate assignments, but are actually meant to function together. And they have been very disconnected. We know this. We've had patterning there and resisted emotion and traumas and all of these things that have caused this kind of block, right, or separation. But what's been happening, because we're in a community of very evolved souls that are continuing to work on and advance themselves, these chakras have been naturally crystallizing. And I've been seeing this in session where the guides might show us that, the lower chakras are very crystallized and working together as one, and then, the upper chakras are still coming online. So I don't think that it's about some specific practice that you have to do to allow this to happen, because I think naturally being on the planet right now at this time and, being more conscious and putting the effort in to that continued ascension, it's naturally taking place. And this gentle breath that we've talked about will find its way into the areas that most need to be revealed. So if there's a block or something that is keeping this full crystallization from taking place, using a very gentle breath, what you'll find is you'll be drawn to the area that needs to be, we'll say, opened or expanded. And not to force this. And I think that's, it's so opposite sometimes of what we're taught. When we find a blocked chakra, we want to force it back into alignment or reveal what's there so we can move forward. And this gentle breath is not about ridding ourselves of things, because true healing comes when we integrate meaning from our traumas, or there's an emotion that we've suppressed that we finally begin to connect with and understand that changes our identity. It creates growth in us. So in this practice, the guides allude to a crystalline channel that runs up the center of our structure right along the chakras. And I believe this is the result of that crystallization. So Lynn, simply working with the breath is going to allow that to take place. And there's really nothing more you have to do other than be present with whatever unique situation is drawing your attention while you're doing that breath. And be kind with yourself about that, because, the technology has been explained, for those of you who will embark on the course later, it's been explained in a really visual way. So we got a lot of great visuals on exactly how our structure works and how it channels this energy. But we're not meant to be in the head about this or intellectual about it. It's the softness and the, we'll say, relaxation into that breath that actually allows everything to fall into place. Because that's where the body has really suffered, I think, the most in this transition, is that we have this kind of fight going on, this war with our bodies. We're gonna bring it into alignment doing this.
Make it happen.
But we can make it happen, right? I'm very, I'm one of those people, right? I can whip my body into shape, but the whole premise of that statement is not unity. It's as if the body is coming along in a lower state, when we're really accentuating a more cooperative type of relationship between our body consciousness and the consciousness non-physically, like that spiritual self that we've come into.
Jennifer wrote in asking a question related to what we're discussing right now. She said, my question is about unity consciousness. The goal with the breath work is to unify the body consciously, and this includes our galactic information. She goes on to ask, so does unity consciousness with the body also include unity consciousness with all things? And if so, in achieving this with ourselves, does this then anchor it for others?
Absolutely. It works both ways. So when we're working with this breath, and our magnetics are increasing, naturally our personal hologram is going to be affected first. And that's where collective change takes place. So I want to mention a part of this that I was shown in practice through Divine Mother, and it was really a profound experience for me. Working with this breath and raising the life force energy through all of the chakras, we get to the crown, the top of the head, and it's really important that we're moving that energy through all of the electromagnetic connections, right? The nervous system and all those very intricate alignments that in the brainstem and in the mind are important to our overall physical structure. And as we do this, there's this beautiful elixir that they show us, almost like a chalice that sits right at the top of the crown, that floods our entire structure. And as this happens, we activate Merkaba. So what is Merkaba? There's so many definitions for the Merkaba, but for the sake of what I was shown, it's a very universal part of our structure, and it's been looked at as a tool for time travel, astral travel, but really what it does is it fragments itself throughout the universe. So I had sat in practice one day and, raising my life force energy, raising the Kundalini into this beautiful chalice at the crown, and just felt this loving, blissful kind of energy float through my aura, and saw my Merkaba start to vibrate. And Divine Mother took my hand and she said, let's follow it and let's see where it goes. And it split into a million tiny little sparks of light, and literally like a blanket covered the entire universe and it just wove itself through every living thing. Wow. Plant consciousness, animal consciousness, earth, galactic beings, collective consciousness. And it is cosmic in nature as well. So it does retrieve for us in all dimensions, which was incredible. So imagine your Merkaba becoming a part of everything universal. I mean, that in and of itself is like the first elemental step, right, to experiencing unity consciousness on the planet. But it was the most beautiful vision I've ever participated in or seen, as it retrieved back for me the things most necessary for my evolution, but touching in the process everything with my energy as well.
It's powerful. And someone was asking, Vicky was asking, would you please clarify the breathing exercise? She said, do I breathe in through the nostrils, up the central column, and then down as along, anyway, can you clarify the breathing exercise?
Yeah, and it's so I'm going to clarify it very simply, but I'm also going to allude to the technology because I think that's what she's alluding to. And remember, the information that's downloaded about these practices is not meant to be intellectually used while we're in the midst of the practice, because if we get too heady about it, we really negate the beauty of the breath. And the breath is just pranic nourishment. So imagine the breath containing all elemental structures of earth and the universe. And we simply just bring a very gentle and easy breath through the nose. So the way I did this starting out was I was laying down very early in my spiritual awakening. I found that lying down flat, on a comfortable sofa or bed was a great way for me to practice. The guides always accentuate the straight spine, not uncomfortably so, but, at least supported. So, this isn't something that you want to do slouched, but find a nice soft chair with a nice, sturdy back, something that you can keep the spine straight. And we're just breathing in the nose. So we're taking a deep inhale through the nose, and then holding it for a second. And the focus is really on the exhale. So we're exhaling every bit of breath out of our belly that we possibly can. And some of us find that we can make a noise with this. We can actually om with it. We can chant with it. If that's something that comes natural for you, do it. but make sure that however you do this is most comfortable for you. That is the underlying rule. We want comfort, and we want to make sure it suits you. So the gentle in the nose with a hold, just a momentary hold. We don't want to get uncomfortable with this. And in a huge exhale through the mouth. And we focus on the sacral first, which I know Kundalini and that creative life force energy sits there. But the way the guides brought this in was the sacral is where we kind of stoke the fire of our creative energy. And a lot of us hold traumas in the root through time, physical traumas, for example, traumas that have taken place in our family lineage. And it can be difficult to start in that area. So the sacral and the root have this beautiful kind of alchemy or connection. And when we are just simply sitting with a focus on the sacral, with a hand right on the belly and allowing ourselves to just melt into this breath, you might naturally feel an expansion between the root and the sacral, just this opening. And this is really where the Kundalini starts. It's like an alchemical fire that's welling up within you. And so I'm going to get a little technical now. And really, if you're working with this breath, the goal is to just very gently continue to raise it. Okay, so what we've learned in these transmissions is that often light workers have a lot of difficulty or blocks within the sacral and solar plexus. And this has a lot to do with safety issues. Mm-hmm. These are not only, those past inner child wounds, but also awakening in and of itself is a stressful event. We forget about this. As we're going through awakening, we change our identities. We go back to relationships and family gatherings with new ideas. It's been a very stressful and unstable place to be. And so we have a lot of blocks there simply because we don't feel safe sometimes in our awakening. And this is where you just simply sit with the breath and allow what's ever there to be communicated to you. It may be heard, it may be felt. You may feel the need to move the body in a gentle pattern, right? Whatever works for you to continue to raise this energy up those different chakras and through that central channel. Now, the guides even showed us almost like a heart shape, like the two serpents that sit in those lower realms, rising on either side and meeting in the middle. And we learned there are gateways between each chakra. They called them dragon gates. And these dragon gates are simply elemental areas that are meant to guard and protect the information that flows through and between. But again, the protective nature of our experience, where we built up walls and we have felt that we have to bubble our energy, has created some really solid calcifications in these dragon gates, which are the points between the chakras. And so again, where these areas reside or we feel them in the process, we just use the breath to keep moving, to help gently and compassionately and vulnerably open up, because we really are using the body as the tool to feel into this energy. And we all know that, Kundalini can feel very sexual in nature. It's a sexual energy because that's the basis for creation. And it's really been kind of stuck in a physical manifestation or in, one area of our bodies. But as we become more vulnerable with this, we begin to feel it raise. And the point is to bring it through the entire structure, all the way up through every chakra, through every dragon gate. And as we raise this, naturally we'll feel, as we get to the pineal, a little resistance. It might even feel like a headache. We might get a little resistant in the head, because that's where that chalice sits, that Ivishla chalice that sits right between the crown and the pineal. And there's an elemental or universal elixir. And so what I believe is that the life force energy, as it becomes raised and in contact with all of these parts of our technology, create the Kundalini, which is meant to be shared throughout our entire structure via these channels and meridians that are very significant in the brain, in the brainstem, down the spine. And we were shown a central channel, crystalline in nature, running all the way up from the root to the crown, but two on either side. Mm-hmm. So we have a masculine and a feminine channel inside the body that is non-physical in nature, but is very important in this process. And it creates this kind of torus, a flow of energy that's recycled. It goes up the central channel, through the mind, through the brain, through the crown, and this beautiful elixir drips down either side, alchemizing masculine and feminine. And this is how that beautiful Merkaba comes into an activated state. And again, we don't have to intellectualize this. We're just being shown and actually minded of this process. When we hear it from the guides this way, it helps us in our personal practice, not because we have to follow it specifically. As a matter of fact, they recommend cultivating a personal experience with this practice. That's what's most important. Right. And as it's given to us, we naturally and vibrationally are supported, right, in how our higher consciousness steps in. We've done this in ancient timelines. And Carrie, this is what I found out. You know, taking that first breath, laying down, not having any idea what I was doing. I fell into Kundalini activation immediately, not because it was random or by chance, but I had done this in so many ancient timelines.
Right.
And I had taught it. It had been taught to me. And I didn't understand that back then. But all of you who are here, you all know. You've been very significant on this planet and other experiences. And you've been a teacher of these things. You have had them taught to you by interdimensionals, intergalactics. So when we hear these terms, when we hear the terminology, it takes our consciousness back and it helps us to remember how we do this.
Right. No, I'm just listening. And would you, I mean, I guess like you said, it's an individual practice that you're recommending, not a one-size-fits-all with regard to this Kundalini breath work. And, but in the inner circle that you have offered here, and we'll talk more about it later, and it is video for all of you who are interested in this course. Do you recommend people doing this every day at first, you know, or for a certain length of time, just to have kind of a guideline, or is it just whenever someone feels inspired to practice it?
Well, first, the loving guides and beings who bring this forward would never give any one human the same direction as any other, because if we force ourselves to do something that feels unnatural, regardless of how high vibrational it is, it's not going to have the best effect.
Counterproductive.
So if you absolutely. So if you find you're working with this practice and you're getting frustrated, walk out of the meditation chair and do something different. However, that being said,
no Merkaba activation now. Maybe later.
Hey, you know, sometimes we're meant to be physically focused. You know, there are things we're meant to pay attention to otherwise, and it happens to me. You know, some people think, well, you're a channel, you must be meditating 20 times a day. Well, no, sometimes I sit down in the meditation chair and it doesn't work, and I know that I get up and I take a walk or I do something else, because it'll always come back in abundance the next day. However, that being said, it is rarely potent to practice this if you can, or if you're so moved to, several times a day for a good chunk of time. You know, for me, it was 3-4 times a day for 6 days straight, and it just happens to be that way, and it really sent me into an expanded kind of timeline experience. And I think it has the ability to do that for a lot of humans, and I've actually had a lot of feedback on that as well. So don't force it. And if you're getting too heady about it, definitely step away. But going back to this gentle breath, I think if you can practice it several times a day, you'll notice really big shifts in the body, and especially in the outer world.
Mm-hmm. Well, and for anyone who's interested in this, I mean, your Inner Circle course that you just completed, I think you just said it just finished last night, so it's all ready to go for people who want to participate in that, and they'll watch it through video, and you'll go into much more detail about all of these processes and all of this. There's a lot in there. But one thing I wanted to highlight that you said, and I wrote it down, you said breath is pranic nourishment. And I love that. And that's what we want to do for ourselves. That spiritual self-care is really activating that. And you said igniting alchemical fire. That kind of stood out for me too. You know, and that's what it organically, naturally activates the Merkaba, and, you know, all of these magical things start happening, you know, not because you force them to, but, you know, because you develop these practices. And like you said, it kind of reawakens our memories of doing this before in other timelines. And like for you, you've done this many times. And so it was reawakened in you. Okay, so I would love to take some live callers if you're open to that, Micheila. You're always so good with them. And, okay, *2 to raise your hand to connect with Micheila. And I guess, Micheila, any kind of questions related to what we're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
All right, here we go then. Okay, I'm going to area code 707. 707, you're live.
Is it me?
It is you. Hi.
Hi. Hello, Carrie. Hello, Micheila, Selena. I love you so much. You know that, Micheila.
I love you too.
Yes. You know, all the tools that you're giving us for our Kundalini is awesome. But being a Scorpio, the way I am, I want to dig really deep, you know, and I want to ask, you know, in preparation for transition, okay, I'm talking just about my own experience. I want to dig deep in what lays dormant into the subconscious mind, because at the time, I want to be peaceful and no surprises. So I'm just curious, just like the Kundalini and how awakens, would that help us bring forward what lays, hidden from us?
When you say hidden, are you talking about, I just want to clarify,
in the subconscious mind.
In the subconscious mind.
Yeah. Whatever lays there that is going to interrupt my peaceful passing.
I see. Yeah. Well, you know, the subconscious mind is an interesting place to start, because so many of us have been focused into physical that we don't have a relationship to this wider scope, right? This expanded perception of what's going on beneath us or within us, I should say. And some of the patterns that are wound up most tightly in our DNA and in the earthly patterns are the ones that we came to obliterate, but we haven't been present with. What this practice does, and so kind of, I want to weave in what Carrie was talking about with the prana and the elemental breath with your question, because I think it's so important to note that we were designed to not only create a singular and unique reality, right, that's very mental and physical in nature, but we were always meant to have this Akashic access. It's like a universal component or a telepathic component of our structure. So the subconscious mind, what it's done is it's kind of taken that part of us and it's turned it into something that's suppressed and we can't understand. But the more we open our perspective, right, the more that we become more universal, these patterns become revealed. And I don't think it's necessary so much that we have to shift them or change them or work them out. It's more important that we simply see them for what they are. So the part of this process that's so, I'll say, helpful to that is that we are bringing in this pranic kind of elemental, universal breath into the structure. And it coats every part of us. So it's not just the cellular and microbiotic consciousness, right, that's taken on these singular assignments, but it's the subconscious that within us has been kind of restricted or pushed down or not recognizable by our physical selves. And it brings it into balance. Okay, so in other words, there are parts of us that are operating separate of the whole. We had our emotional body, our physical body, our spiritual selves, our subconscious, our conscious, all of these things that have taken on separate assignments but never have a connection point. And so when we create with the breath this cyclical rhythm, what we're doing is we're bringing it all back into balance so that now, yes, we can have these grander realizations and we can perceive the things that haven't been available to us before, or where we've been operating in these dormant ways that have affected not only our current experience, but will have the potential to affect the experiences of others. Magnetically also, Elena, that when you strengthen that field, you're going to reflect in the outer world some of the things that are equal to the patterns that we have within. So this can be very uncomfortable at times. I think we talked about this at the beginning of the course. Sometimes when we're moving a lot of energy and those patterns rear their ugly head, we see them in the outer world reflected in other people or reactions, from people, and they help us to really come into contact with those areas of our lives that need shifting. Does that help? I think
look
that
closely. Yeah, it's like looking closely to reflections to see how I stand.
I think that's where it starts. Yeah, and I think that for us, we're always going to have the ability to look in the outer world to see where some of those most dormant or subconscious patterns might already be changing or moving. So sometimes, let me give you an example. I had a question like this just recently. Someone felt that they were being barraged by people who were very angry around them. And they said, well, I just feel extremely peaceful and I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. Why would I be surrounded by all of these people who are so angry when I feel peaceful? And the guide said, well, it must be something within you that's changing right now for you to feel so much peace in the midst of others' anger. And it can be a result of a passing through or a clearing of that pattern from you that you're seeing it now in the collective. It's kind of like dream state. Sometimes I think we have dreams that are showing us we're clearing something from our field, when really we start to analyze it and think, oh my gosh, why would we have gone there in our dream state? Well, we just healed something, and it's the energy we're perceiving passing through. I do think that's one area that's very, very, very valuable to tune into while you're doing this work. But naturally, it's going to be revealed. It has to be revealed, because when we are unifying all of these different body parts, consciousness fields, conscious, subconscious, all of these parts of us, they start to work unified, and we are naturally going to shift to the things that have been most difficult, I think, to raise up and understand.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, you both. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Micheila. All
thank you,
love.
Elena.
You're welcome.
Wonderful question. Okay, many blessings to you, Elena. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go to area code 406. 406, you're live.
Hi, Micheila. This is Ev.
Hi.
How are you doing? It's great to hear
Good.
from
How are you?
I'm pretty good. I wanted to ask you something about the transformation you went through, because I can tell, because I can feel the shift and stuff. And this transformation, I have been going through a lot of moving energy through my body, and like it's coming out my arms, like my arms are going to break off. And I am just wondering, as you went through this, or you started with the breath work or everything, did you feel a lot of physical energy trying to escape your body and move out of your body, or was it, is it a channeling thing of working it through your breath, or using this type of breath? Or, anyway, I don't know how to form it, but it's just
No, I understand exactly what you're saying, and remember, of course, everyone's going to be unique in how they experience this. So if there's something that needs to pass through, you're definitely going to feel that moving out of your body. For me personally, I started to notice in physical, when I was outside of doing the practice, a kind of detoxification taking place physically, actually. So it can happen on different realms. It can be, physically related or non-physically related. And that breath, that out breath, that's so very important. That can be a clearing for us as well, because remember, a lot of the energy within us, so they showed us in the course where meridians have been shut down. We were meant to channel light. So that pranic breath is like the nourishment of the plants and the animals and the water up on our planet. It's our nourishment as well. Our meridians operate on light, but they've been so broken and disconnected. So when we naturally start to bring more light through them, we are going to move things out of the way and reconnect, which can certainly feel like energetic shifting going on in the body. It's not unlike, right. I mean, think about it this way. It's kind of like the microcosmic experience of what Gaia herself has been going through, because with the pole shift and the new grid installation, we've seen it within the tectonic plates and within the crust of the earth. There's a lot of movement going on right now because of that adjustment, and that certainly will happen both on the physical and in the etheric realms within your body.
Yeah, and you talked about those gates that are between the chakras, so it could even be the disintegration of those, and energy now can move through your body, but it's still unchanneled. So, well, thank you. Your course really sounds interesting. I took your course 11. Anybody out there?
Yeah.
The courses are so powerful. If you have time to take them, you can financially. You won't waste your time. They're amazing courses.
Well,
thank you.
Beautiful feedback.
Thank you.
So happy to hear that.
Yes, thank you for calling in and being with us. That was a good question. And okay, take care of yourself, sweetie. All right. Let's go to area code. Where am I going to go? So many are lighting up for me right now. Okay. Okay, I'll go to area code 609. 609, you're live.
Oh, hello, Micheila.
Hi.
Hi, what is your name?
My name is Pat Bergstresser. I'm so honored that you answered my call.
Oh, absolutely. You were lighting up. So, welcome. Happy you're here.
Oh, I'm so grateful for you, Kara, and all the wisdom that you offer us each time. And Micheila, it's just wonderful. I've been dealing with the body. The body seems to be the main issue with lightheadedness and joint discomforts. And, I'm doing breath work. I try to connect with the earth. And I feel like I hold the grid light for her, too.
Mm-hmm.
The breath work would probably be wonderful for me, like you were explaining what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, keep in mind, so this is something that's noteworthy, is that there are going to be times when we are going to experience challenges with the body. So this breathwork practice and everything that the guys are teaching, it doesn't exempt us from things that are in our divine plan, because we came to evolve the planet and we came to evolve humanity. And these physical body challenges they're like massive undertakings of energy that kind of swirl into your experience from the collective Akash, right? And that's why they feel so overwhelming to us. And we can tend to get lost in the suffering of those experiences, which kind of creates them, bigger than what they really need to be, because we learned in these transmissions is that we're meant to recycle energy. We're vibrational beings. We're always meant to be moving and changing. So what that means is there's no disease or physical ailment that's supposed to stay with you forever, yet perhaps you are here as a healer of it, right? There is some kind of earthly physical pattern that you agreed to carry. We all agreed to carry because we arrived here to be the transmuters of it. And the most significant thing that I've learned in my personal life is to not be in resistance of it as much as possible. I'm by nature a very impatient person. You know, I'm an A-type personality. I feel like if there's something in the body, I go on the hunt. I'm a researcher, you know, and it's really been my biggest fault, because when we do that and we don't allow the body to be where it is, we miss out on very important messages, I think, that are meant to be a part of the experience. So not unlike any other experience we have in life, any body experience is just so incredibly important for our soul's evolution and for the planet. So divine timing comes into it, you know. The breath work is going to help you to manifest what you need, and when divine time shows up, everything aligns to shift the timeline.
That's wonderful.
So the more
my guide through my heart and send love to this strange energy I'm feeling. You know, and just do that a lot. Breathe through my heart and send love to it. Or I'll walk on the earth and just connect with Gaia, Sophia, and feel her loving energy coming up. And just walking around with the trees and nature is beautiful. It's very healing for me. Very grounding.
I do the same thing. I love it. Yeah. So important. So important.
Absolutely. Well, I hope that was helpful, and you have a lovely energy about you. You really do. So
I try to hold that. I try to send different light energy in the room. Sometimes it's rainbow energy. Sometimes it's gold light. You know, I've been in med tech for over 30 years, and I used to talk to my machines and send them love, and they would work well. They'd work well. I even send love to my car, and I was doing a lot of that today walking. It was just a very amazing day. This must be a very powerful day.
Well, I can feel it from you that way. So thank you for bringing that into our sacred circle here today. So sending you so much love. Okay.
Oh, you too. Love to both of you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Micheila, we'll take a couple more callers after, but let's talk about the Lightworker Inner Circle 13, which is what we've been talking about. This is available to everybody now. You just completed this. It's all on video for people. For those of you who may be new to the show, all of our speakers provide special offers, and that way if you are resonating with what we're talking about here, you can take what you've heard, many steps forward. So go to straighttalkforthesoul.com, click on our marketplace, and you'll see Micheila's beautiful face. Click on her picture, and you'll see this offer. Micheila, this program is really full. Let's highlight what's in it and what people can anticipate to experience with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It is very full, and there's a lot of information. So this is a video class. It's a channeled download that you can interact with in your own time. And actually, what I was explaining to you, Carrie, is it's kind of turned out to be this awesome manual that I think will be so valuable throughout time, that we can go back and refer to it even later in life and get something new to help ourselves move forward in the body. But everything that we've been talking about is in this course. So it's designed to help you fully understand your personal energy signature, how to eliminate programming from the cells and tissues and organs and all these microbiotic consciousness that we've talked about, and help us to physically and non-physically merge with new 5D potentials that are already vibrating in our field. So we're kind of uncovering this unique master plan to work in concert with our physical energy and raise the body's immunity and vibration, but also get our crystalline energy running again through all of the meridians and all of these channels that we've talked about. So one of the collectives that I love so very much, who came in right off the bat, were the Dolphins and Whales. And there is an introductory message from them, and it's entitled Rebirthing Your Body Image. And they take us through this kind of initiation. And it was really surprising to me because they talked about in the course how even as a young child sitting in the high chair, we picked up on our parents' concerns about measuring up to different standards, how they, for a child, if they have to walk at a certain age or crawl at a certain age or eat food and, all these things. And those first experiences that we had with expectations of our energy signature are still wired within us. And the Dolphins and Whales took us through this powerful activation for heart coherence, and to rid ourselves of some of those patterns that we've been using as a veil. And so once you do that, you're going to step right into the program, which is 5 channeled transmissions. And I'll just rattle them off. The first one was all about our body's unique energy signature and DNA patterns and how to work with that. And then a really important second video focused on energy blocks and siphons. We learned a lot about reptilian consciousness and how we have vulnerabilities in the body that siphon energy or currency from us, and how to work with that, how to rise above that. It was a really, really important lesson. And then the third video is the breath work. So there's a full hour, maybe hour and a half on this ancient activation protocol and how to work with it. Very, very meticulous guidance that you can, go through at your leisure. This is where they talk about the meridians and dragon points and kundalini, Merkaba, all that stuff. And then finally, there's an integration for the new template that we're designing and how to channel light. They give us a whole just download on channeling light and why that's so important. And then there's a whole 2-hour shoring up of any questions. So there's 2 hours where we get a little extra about areas that we need to stabilize. And the most beautiful thing about my courses are the private Facebook groups, because I just have the most loving group of souls that come together and support each other. And so if you're feeling alone on the planet, join the Facebook group. You will find so much support there, not only from people who are also taking the course and sharing experiences, but even forming groups in their local area, getting together, right, discussing. So that's a part of the course as well.
That's wonderful. I think everybody needs that support. And if they're having questions, or like even one of our callers, they can ask what everybody else is going through, and that way they can just connect with others. And I think that's beautiful. And every time you've been on the show and you offer a different, it's funny because this is season 13 of this show, and you just completed Inner Circle 13. So I think we've offered a good portion of your, right. And they are so thorough, and they're so transformative, and people who get introduced to you and your work, Micheila, really, really benefit and love you. And so it's always exciting to see something new. It just, so I hope for those of you who are resonating that this will be exactly, what will support you. When something is resonating and like, oh, this is, or also you wouldn't be on the call today. Sometimes, the topic title, if you got our email or something, or you'll be guided. Your soul will say, go listen. And it's precisely the next step for you. So, Micheila, thank you for bringing that forward for this amazing community. And there are quite a few people who ask kind of a similar questions in the webcast, so I'm going to bring one out. Feeling flu. This is Ing from Holland. She said, I'm feeling flu-like symptoms, been extremely tired for more than 2 weeks. Is it just a virus? I'm never sick, or is my physical body going through some kind of process? What can you share to someone who's feeling those flu-like symptoms?
Yeah, well, right now on the planet, we've just gone through a very significant raise in Schumann, as well as some intense solar. Again, we had a geomagnetic solar storm in the last week. And I notice at times like that, I will feel a little nauseous, and have some in equilibriums, or what we call it, be off in my equilibrium. So definitely, as the planet's shifting and we have these really intense energies, we're going to feel that way. But it's hard to say, and this is where and so this is something I've learned that has personally worked for me. I think when the mind gets involved and we try to figure it out, we tend to manifest something bigger, right? And I know it's so hard because we want to feel good and we want to feel better and we want to know how we can never experience this again. But it is the relaxation and the acceptance of where the body is that truly allows you to move past and heal anything. It's like this integration that we're always in the midst of. And it takes that soft, divine feminine kind of care and trust that the body is doing what it exactly needs to do right now to allow that to happen. And that's a really hard thing for us on the planet,
right.
because we have been so immersed in these definitions of illness and something's wrong with the body. And sometimes the body's doing exactly what it needs. And maybe for you right now, that's some purging or realigning. Maybe energy's moving. Maybe you are meant to just lay low for a little while. I know that I am one of those very, I'm like, as I mentioned, go-getter, a very active person. And I've noticed in my life that if I don't incorporate rest, my body will incorporate it for me. My life force signature says you've had enough. We're going to put you on the sofa for a couple of weeks. And while you're on that sofa, it's important to align with that, because if you don't, you'll be there longer. That's been my experience. And that's really the message the guides are bringing through. We really have to find that alignment and trust with our body consciousness again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And, I want to highlight that we mentioned before that having physical body challenges does not mean that we're ascending incorrectly. That, as you mentioned, that we agreed to be these transmuters, and that is part of the journey here. So we're never doing anything wrong when we have these physical body challenges that come up. And like you said, by doing these courses and things like that, we're not going to be exempt from them. But what it does is it supports us in just kind of thriving through them, and so that it's not as challenging as it could be. So I just felt it was important to highlight that, because sometimes people in a community like this, they feel like they're hard on themselves when they have these physical challenges, like perhaps they're doing something wrong. And what you said earlier is really important, that it's not, that we agreed to be transmuters and of energy, and that can happen in a variety of ways with the physical body.
Absolutely. And what I've learned too, Carrie, is we have to meet everything where it is to change it. So we come into this reality and we may be patterned to a disease like cancer. And that cancer can show up in a myriad of ways. It may just be an awareness that we have of a family lineage that we might be in fear of. It may actually manifest in the body. It may manifest in our outer world with a family member or someone that we're helping to heal. But we have to meet it somewhere in this physical plane. And it's not to suffer. We are such incredible transmuters of this Akashic energy that has been present on our planet for a very long time. And the guides are really quick to say, although it looks really difficult, it's not that difficult to actually move through. So, it's important to recognize that this is where we have decided to be of service. Some of these most difficult themes in the body, I found, are actually directly tied to how we are here to transition the planet.
Absolutely, yes. And so, especially as light workers, way showers, anyone who's listening to a show like this, be very gentle with yourself and with these things. Elaine wrote in and she said, "My body vibrates from my feet to my solar plexus. What is this all about? No pain or discomfort, but it's getting more intense. And I also wondered if it's related to assisting the Earth in her ascension." What do you say to that?
Yeah, I tend to want to go that direction with her right off the bat, because some of us have a very intricate connection through the root to Gaia. And with what's happening right now within her, to actually have that vibration coming through you just totally makes sense to me. And there's no mistake. So we have these experiences because it's a part of our uniqueness, our extrasensory gifts and abilities that we come to share with humanity. So I'd say explore the the benefits of that and how it can be channeled through and utilized. It's, it's kind of like what I experience when I channel. My body shakes and twitches when new beings or forms of consciousness come in, and it's just an adjustment between the different dimensional experiences that I'm having. And Earth is containing all dimensions. She exists in all dimensions, and she's shifting a lot of her timelines right now. So absolutely. Some of us are like a barometer to that. I found in my personal readings.
Right.
Yeah.
Someone was asking if you could describe more about what's going on when you were talking about, how we can get kind of, and I experience the same things, either I get nauseous or just kind of lightheaded, dizzy, with the things that are happening on the planet. Can you describe what is going on with just the different changes that are causing us to feel that way?
Well, I don't think it's so much. It's a physical result of something very non-physical. So what many of us have gone through in the last several years is we have now brought into balance our physical bodies and our non-physical energy fields. And our non-physical energy fields are far more sensitive to earthly shifts. We are of Earth. We are connected to Earth. And maybe before awakening, we didn't have these quote-unquote ascension symptoms, but as we continued to accentuate that non-physical part of ourselves, all of a sudden our physical is receiving the feedback from what's going on in non-physical. And, it's hard to answer it's hard to answer that question with just one response, because I think it's so many things. When we are nauseous, we might be integrating new information, meaning we got a huge influx of light that came in, and our body is just catching up to that light or integrating that light. Some people can feel very exhausted. Others can feel they can't sleep. They have an unnatural rhythm or heart rate, and others might feel very nauseous. We're all so different in how we work with this. But something I just actually reviewed, I've been editing a book, and I just reviewed a very integral chapter on the sun. And so I had mentioned previously that we just had a very significant solar event that went on for about a week. And solar is an influx of light and crystalline information. And the way that I have understood the sun is it's like this huge storage bank for us. And it gives us feedback about our own ascension. So it will match vibrationally within us what we are ready to now integrate. And that can be ancient knowledge. It can be past lives. We can find soul fragments from other lives coming to reconnect with us. And this is processing. So we're processing that information. And the physical body is it's a slower speed of vibration. It just takes a little longer to catch up to the information that's changed within us. And that's how we moderate it.
The same person wrote back in and said, can you explain more about the Schumann all of that? She's saying she doesn't understand. She's hearing a lot about it, and you're really the perfect person to explain this. You can explain anything, but what can you say about that?
So Earth has a core, so not unlike this central channel that we've been talking about that exists within our physical body, because with a microcosmic Earth in and of herself, right? She has this beautiful crystalline core, and what it does is it picks up the sound, the acoustic resonance of all things on her. So it's hard to conceptualize, but imagine this instrument within Earth that is picking up the sound vibration or the signal of every living thing, every plant, every animal, every human, and it takes it and it creates a resonance of it. So it gives us energy. It gives us a relationship to the Earth and everything on it. And it's meant to accentuate that collective part of us, that unity consciousness that we've been talking about on this entire call. So it's been raising because the consciousness of everything on our planet is shifting and raising. We within us are vibrating at a new speed, a new sound. And if Gaia captures that, she sends it back out to us. But the reason that we have to integrate it so much, or it's difficult for us to adjust to, is that many of us are still focused very singularly. We have these new ideas about service and how we are meant to facilitate a new timeline experience. But we haven't necessarily been, some of us, been able to effectively ground that and really maintain, or I'll say manifest, the things that come along with it. We're all changing so quickly. We're just changing so quickly. It's hard to keep up with. So what the Schumann is showing us is actually our progress. And it's sending that progress back to us so that we can feel it, integrate it, and utilize it ourselves. So that pranic breath that we talked about, that elemental nourishment, it can come through her core as a sound. And that sound is something that we're always tied to as human beings because we are tied to the earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for
that. I know it's kind of tough, but
no, that was beautiful. Yeah. Okay, I want to address one question, Rosemary from Calgary. She said, in my morning meditation and journaling, I asked why I still have sadness and despair within me, hearing cries like deep in a well. And then she went on to say, Kuan Yin and Archangel Michael have written through her journaling that I'm helping to clear the collective and ancestors. She says, but am I fooling myself?
I think that is so incredibly relevant. And first, I would trust implicitly, because the second you begin to trust the information coming through you, you're either going to receive more validation of it to consider, right? Or it's just going to become the vibration through which you receive more guidance and truth. It's just, that's the way it works. It has to resonate with us. Obviously, it's a very positive message, although it can be difficult to accept that we're conduits in this way. But I have to say, more and more, exactly what you're saying is coming into my personal sessions and readings, because even okay, so let's even go back to yesterday or the day before. I think we had a time change on the planet. Some of us in different locations geographically had a time change, and although it's only an hour time change, that's a huge energetic shift for us. Our rhythms are off. And the guys were saying that there can be a lot of agitation in the collective today, even from those that didn't change the time, because they're feeling all of that integration from other humans. So we're naturally becoming more unity focused. The guides say we are more collectively connected than ever before. The Schumann is a big part of that. So what that means is if you are focused on an assignment like this, perhaps clearing timeline traumas or inner child wounds, you may be tuning into that of the collective that much more strongly. But I don't think we're meant to suffer through it, okay? So if it's something that you're having difficulty with, I would say work with Michael, work with Kuan Yin, and ask them how you can bring this into some type of creative offering for humanity. This is what I find, Carrie, is that a lot of us we're very empathic and we're open containers to receive this type of information, but we're not balanced in the output. So we're always receiving. And there's always some logical type of output for what we receive. But many of us have struggled to put that into earthly form. But I think the time is coming. So many, as we walk through this 2020 gateway, are going to be creating very unique services and technologies and healing practices on the planet. And so I'd say just hold on tight, but keep in contact with them and see where perhaps there's something creative within you that can express this to the collective in some way that can help you personally come into better balance with it.
Right. Beautiful. Thank you for that. And I hope you heard that. Another good question about our unique energy signature, Micheila. Is that something that is set in place or is it fluid?
Oh, it's definitely fluid. So it's always changing. And, as we mentioned, it really runs right alongside the divine plan. So whatever is happening or meant to happen, whatever is triggered within our divine plan, our life force energy is always moderating itself, preparing itself to interact with the outer world. And we really need to get back into that cyclical rhythm. I think it's been a little out of whack because, as we've mentioned, we've been in such judgment of our life force signature, our personal energy, or especially we've been comparing it to that of others. And that in and of itself has really diminished the way that it can be supportive for us in this life. It's just like the seasons of the planet. You know, here in Michigan, the leaves are falling. It's getting cooler. You know, the seasons, they know exactly when to come in and to change. And it's the same with our life force signature. It moves like the seasons with our divine plan.
Okay. So the divine plan, though, is that more of something that doesn't change, that we came in with and that we are here to realize? You know what I'm saying? So if the energy signature shifts and is fluid, but the divine plan, is that fluid as well, or is that more of something that remains unchanging?
Yeah. Interesting question. So I believe that we create this plan from a collective vision, which is massive in scope. And it's really hard for us in a physical linear identity to imagine what we thought when we coded this plan.
Okay.
But it is, okay, so it is stagnant. There is a plan. There are things we're meant to experience and interact with. There are intentions that are coded within it. However, we do still have free will. So what that means is the way we respond to our divine plan decides how it may manifest. And our divine plan can manifest in different dimensions. Okay, so I'll give you an example. We may come to the planet as a healer. And at the beginning of our life, we may choose to be a nurse in a very conventional setting. And as we awaken and our perception widens, we see different opportunities, right, to become the healer. There might be a time in our life when our physical body takes us through a journey of healing that we're meant to share with others, and our story is actually the part that is healing humanity. Or all of a sudden we may recognize we have these amazing gifts and abilities, and that nurse now becomes some type of healing practitioner using metaphysics and energy. These are just different dimensional expressions of the same intention.
Right.
So yes, I believe it is stagnant to a degree, and our life force energy always comes in to support it, but we interact with it in free will, and we may manifest it in different timeline experiences and dimensions.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely resonate with that. It's always fascinating, enlightening, and fun talking with you because I can ask you any question, or anybody can, and you beautifully support us, you know, in understanding a lot of these things. And I hope those of you who've joined us and stayed with us this whole time, you know, you're feeling excited about this program with Micheila. And this is, you know, like I told you before we got started, this is a program that all of us can relate to and benefit from. Because like we said, you know, all of us agreed to be these transmuters, and we're going to have these physical conditions or challenges. And, you know, and this can really help us. And, you know, there are a lot of questions more about that, the breath work, but I want to leave that to, if this is something you really feel you want to learn about, you really go into that in this, the Inner Circle 13. And do you, on video, so you're on video and you show them the breath activation and how to do that, Micheila?
We channel it in. So we're working directly with the guides and beings that taught me. This is Divine Mother, Isis, Hathor, Whales, Dolphins. So we're actually working directly with them, and they're carrying us through the breath.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds exciting, my dear. So is there anything else you want to add on this topic or about the program before we start wrapping up here, Micheila?
You know, I'll just add that I think this program comes at the right time because, as you mentioned, the divine plan and the physical body, there was always meant to be a universal part of us that was supporting our earthly experience. And that's the part of us that we've lost. And so that's where I think this breath work is so powerful, and the downloads, the teachings that the guides bring into this course are so potent, is that they help us bring that universal part of ourselves back together to support whatever earthly or physical experience is ongoing in the moment.
Yes, and like you said earlier, that we were always intended or meant to have Akashic access, and all of this breath work really supports that. We can really just expand into our galactic, universal, just everything, awareness. So for those of you...
the original design.
Yes.
The original design.
This isn't just about the physical body. This is really... I'm going to go back to something you said at the very beginning. It was about expanding our magnetic field, increasing our magnetic field. And which just opens us up to so much support, information, remembrance, everything. So
it takes the pressure off of us where we've been trying to force manifestation, through very specific practices. It puts the impetus on a part of our structure that already knows what we need best and carries that signal out to the universe. So in a sense, it makes it far easier.
Yes. Well, Micheila, thank you for being back here with me again. It's always a joy and a pleasure, and I hope you enjoyed it too.
I did. Thank you for having me. I always love to be here.
Beautiful. And to everybody who's joined us, thank you so much for the gift of your time, your openness, your love, and your presence today. You're welcome to write in. Let us know how you're feeling, what stood out for you today. Know that all of us coming together is such a powerful thing in this sacred circle, so thank you for being a part of that. And again, if the information shared here today resonates, give yourself the gift of saying yes to the opportunities presented in Micheila's special offer. Thank you for going with us on this adventure today, everybody. I am sending waves and waves of love and light and appreciation from my heart to yours. May you feel it, receive it, offer it to those you encounter today, tonight, wherever you happen to be in the world. And as always, until next time, please give yourself full permission to shine instead of shrink, express instead of suppress, and own that amazing, powerful glow of yours. I'll see you back here in this playground of light next time. Bye-bye, everybody.